Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be back here. I think it's my 5th time this evening that I've been involved in Google. On this campus, I've come here quite frequently. I work for Gallaudet University. It's a university for deaf and hard of hearing individuals specifically. I'm a manager of a research group, and you can see that it's the Technology Access Program as presented on the slide. And generally speaking, we look at very different technologies for communication for deaf and hard of hearing people, including captioning. And right now, we are involved in a 5-year research project that focuses on measurements, the quality of closed captions. And also to figure out how the best way it is to show closed captions on a video. Because there's an awful lot of technology out there that you're probably familiar with, and it's been around since the 1980s, and some of it has not changed. I also wanted to mention that I've been working closely with Google on 2 applications that benefit deaf and hard of hearing individuals. One of them is Live Transcribe, and the other is Live Caption. So just for an FYI out there. I am seriously involved in them, and I treasure these products. Anyway, I'd like to go ahead and proceed now with my presentation. First thing that I would like to emphasize to each and every one of you here is that captions are important for access. There is one thing that you cannot accept, that they can be rhetorically invent and negotiate the meaning of the text successfully. I mean, we have a checklist for access, and I'm sure you've checked all the boxes, but when you do, it doesn't always benefit deaf and hard of hearing individuals because they rely so much on the captions and not the auditory input. You know, you have to give the captions as much attention and detail as you do the audio portion of a video. So I want you to think through this thoroughly and think how the words appear on the screen and the emotions that are emitted to a person who's watching the video or experiencing the audio. We want them to have the same experience. I'm going to give you some examples here to demonstrate my point, and they're basically in 2 categories. One is what's called offline caption, which is a pre-recorded video, which is manufactured ahead of time. And so the person who's doing the caption has a lot of time to produce really good quality closed captions. And you expect perfection 100% of the time and accuracy. It also identifies who's speaking. It'll identify if there's background noise, and if somebody slams the door, for example, or if there's some kind of music or anything happening off screen. On the other hand, there's the other category that is live captions. For example, what you're seeing projected on the screen in the corner. The person who is working to provide these captions is working in parallel. It's a synchronous process, and it goes along with the audio input, and sometimes there's a trade-off. All right. Now I'd like to show you an example of offline captions, and this shows why we can't have the words simply taken verbatim and projected onto a video. I also wanted to let you know that the videos you're about to see have no audio, and that's intentional. Because if you listen to the audio input, it will affect the way that you perceive the captions. I really want you to take it all in through your eyes and get what it feels like from the perspective of a deaf or hard of hearing person who relies solely on the captions and not on the audio. So you're going to watch the video, and I will show the same scene twice. And I would like you to compare the first with the second version and see if you notice the difference. And you'll see why this difference is so important. Sorry about that. The first video that you watched, you may or may not have noticed, it was probably unclear to you just who was speaking. Now, in the second video, it was more clear to you who was speaking and who said what. Now, that's an example about where you think on the screen the caption should be and how they are related to the human who is speaking. All right? It still requires for you to think about how to do things well and properly. Because in the next video, I'm going to show you what happens if you just throw the words randomly on the screen and you don't identify who's speaking. I think you'll find out in the next video just how hard it is to follow. Okay, that was tough, wasn't it? Can you imagine with closed captions, they follow the exact audio input, and you see it's like a bad tennis match trying to follow the input. The person who writes the captions needs to be quite inventive about how to represent what's going on the screen, identify who's speaking, but at the same time not be overwhelming to the audience who's viewing it. And that's a very challenging task. So far, automatic speech recognition, AI, ASR, has not been doing a good job of this. All right. So now I'm going to shift to live caption. As I mentioned, it's a distinct category. If a person is working, making these captions in parallel with the audio stream, there's a lot of added pressure. The person has to work quickly. They can't pause and think about anything. It's got to be done on the fly. They can't think about where they're going to put the captions. They have no time. You have less time to figure out how to identify who the speaker is, and if you identify background noise, you've lost something else. And also, if you caption the audio, you will have a delay. And that's very noticeable. If you listen to a video and watch the captions, they will not be in sync. And sometimes people can tell if the audio is off. All right, so now what I'd like to do is to show you a typical example. This is taken off of something in Washington, D.C. I'm going to compare two things: television, captions that show up on the television from a human captionist, and then I'm going to show you the same thing again with every word, but to perfection. Okay? I also want to let you know that the human captioning is not bad. You know, it's good. It's okay. I'll put that in quotes. It's okay. But I think you will notice that there are some things that are obviously different. All right, so you can see that there were some errors. For example, aisle, A-I-S-L-E compared to I''LL. I mean, it's not that bad. You could make that correction yourself mentally, and I'm sure there was enough content that you could do that, but now I want you to watch and see what happens now. Okay, I think you saw an obvious difference. There's a lot of information in the audio form that was missing in the captions. And I would like to emphasize that live captioning is a challenge. The second example that I showed you, the goal was clarity, and that was an obvious goal. But how do you accomplish that goal? That's the challenge. It requires an awful lot of work, a lot of training, and also requires some inventive technologies. Okay. This last final video I'd like to show you is a comparison of two things: automated speech recognition, which is, I'm going to put in quotes, okay. And then the other is what I consider to be the best top-line human captionists. And that captionist works for Vitec. And that's the company who will be giving a presentation later tonight. And it shows how much of a difference there is, between machine recognition or the top human captionist. Let's look at the difference in their work. I would like to emphasize again, Vitec, it did not cheat. They did not cheat. They got the video, and let's say where they're from, Rochester. Vitec identified the human who works in that area, who's familiar with the names, and they sent the information to that person, and then all the captioning was done. Beautiful project. Okay, so you could notice the difference. You can see that there was definitely an increase in quality with the human captionists. So to wrap up on all of this information, first of all, I'd like to give a little caveat. Deaf and hard of hearing people, if you were to ask them for feedback on your videos and captions, they often disagree with each other. They don't all agree that one was the most outstanding and the other was the worst. They do have a variety of opinions. And of course, you know why? I suspect it's because it was due to their background, their language skills, how they grew up, their quality of reading, how much hearing they have, their cognitive abilities, and so on. There's an awful lot of factors that interact there. So that could mean that one size is not going to fit all. So this is a major opportunity for all of you. This is going to be the next step. What if you create closed captions that had the ability to fit every unique individual? Huh? All right. It doesn't matter what you do. My emphasis to you is captioning is not simply marking the box that says you're going to make it accessible to deaf and hard of hearing people. You have to have innovation, you have to have technology that works, you have to have creative approaches. If you have that very creative, strategic way of thinking and planning, then I believe your captions will be much, much better. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate that, Christian. And now I'd like to introduce Ann Cannon from Vitech, the company that Christian mentioned, and she's going to give us an introduction to the company and their products. And would you like a microphone?
Sure. Thank you. Wow. That was a great introduction. Thank you, Christian. Just wanted to tell you quickly a little bit about Vitech. Vitech stands for Vital Accessibility, something we believe strongly in as the largest closed caption company in North America. Something that really leads to our accuracy, I believe, is that we employ all our captioners. They're not freelancers, and so they have to qualify. They have to take strict testing so that they are certified, and it really lends to our accuracy and credibility. Besides the closed captions, Vitech also does localization, and we do subtitles and translation into over 50 languages. We also work in audio description, which I don't know how much it'll be mentioned tonight, but it's really important. It's for people who are blind so they can enjoy movies and programming. It's basically description of all the action that occurs on screen during video content. It's placed in between dialogue, so it's obviously pretty tricky, and some highly skilled script writers and also voice talents contribute to audio description. Lucky to say that our CTO of Vitech, Ted Collins, will be here. He's going to be on the panel. So if anybody has any questions at all about the technology behind Vitech and closed captions, real-time or offline, he'll be happy to answer it for you. So thank you very much. Not sure who's next. Is Brian gone? I could say more. Stretch it? Did I mention we do over 600,000 hours a year of closed captioning? It's quite a lot. So that's okay. I was probably quicker than you thought I'd be.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Thank you very much.